Old maps were his sacred texts, guiding him. He sought out the ghosts of history, the silent witnesses. These were places where time itself seemed to pause. He hunted for stories, for echoes of what once was. The whispers of the past called to him, a siren song he could not ignore. The rumor of this particular bunker reached him subtly. It came from an old man in a dusty Tallinn antique shop. The man spoke of a hidden Soviet installation deep in the forests, a place designed for something big then abandoned. Most dismissed such tales as folklore, figments of Cold War paranoia. But the old man's eyes held a strange certainty. Alex felt a familiar stirring, a mix of doubt and deep curiosity. He packed a sturdy backpack ropes, a powerful flashlight, a crowbar. He also took his camera to document whatever he might find. He flew to Tallinn, then took a bus to a remote village. The forest awaited, vast and indifferent. The Estonian forest was a deep, emerald ocean of trees. Sunlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy. Alex felt the profound quiet settle around him. It was a silence that hummed with unseen life, yet also with secrets. He had a copy of a barely legible, hand-annotated Soviet military map. The old man had given it to him, a parting gift. For days he walked, guided by the fading ink and his own intuition. The air was clean, cold, and carried the scent of pine and damp earth. Frustration began to gnaw at him after 3 days. The map was vague in crucial areas. The landscape had changed over decades. Trees had fallen, new growth obscured old landmarks. He found nothing but more trees, more silence. He started to doubt the old man's story and his own judgment. He almost turned back. Then he saw it, a glint of unnatural colour amidst the greens and browns. He pushed through a thicket of ferns. It was a piece of rusted metal, unmistakably man-made, part of a ventilation shaft, perhaps half buried in the earth. Hope, sharp and sudden, surged through him. The bunker was not obvious. It was a low, wide mound, cleverly camouflaged. Decades of accumulated earth, moss, and fallen leaves covered it. It looked like a natural rise in the terrain, a small hillock. Only its unnervingly regular shape betrayed its artificial nature. Alex walked around it, his heart pounding. This was no mere shed. This was substantial. He felt a wave of excitement mixed with a strange apprehension. He was about to disturb something left untouched for a very long time. He located what he believed was the main entrance. It was on the north side, shielded by a cluster of dense pines. He began to dig with his small trenching tool. The soil was loose at first, then became more compacted. Soon his shovel struck something hard, concrete. He cleared more earth, revealing the top edge of a massive steel door. It was thick, formidable, and deeply rusted. Faded Cyrillic lettering was barely visible. Object 734. Object 734. A shiver ran down his spine. The heavy door moved just an inch at first, then more. A dark, narrow opening appeared. He was standing on the threshold of the unknown. Alex hesitated for a moment. The darkness within seemed to swallow the beam of his flashlight. He took a deep breath, the forest air feeling suddenly precious. Then he stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately. It was damp, and the silence was different here. It was a heavy, oppressive silence, not like the living quiet of the forest. He descended the concrete steps carefully. Each footfall echoed unnaturally in the confined space. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay. The beam of his flashlight cut through the gloom. He was in a short corridor. Pipes lined the walls, coated in rust. Wires hung like dead vines. A few bare light bulbs were still in their sockets, though clearly powerless. He saw a control panel, its gauges frozen, its switches untouched for what must have been decades. It felt like a tomb, a place where something had ended, abruptly. He moved deeper into the bunker. Room after room opened before him. Barracks with rusted bed frames, a mess hall with overturned tables, a communications center, its equipment smashed, likely before abandonment. Section 5. The Room of Whispered Histories. After what felt like hours of exploration, Alex found a different kind of door. It was smaller than the others, made of thick steel, with a heavy wheel-lock mechanism. Unlike the smashed equipment elsewhere, this door seemed intentionally sealed. It was in a section of the bunker that felt more secure, more important. His curiosity overcame his caution. He examined the lock. It was complex, but time and neglect had weakened it. He worked on it with his tools, patiently, persistently. The wheel finally turned with a reluctant groan. The door swung inward, revealing a room unlike the others. It was not a living space or a command center. It was an archive. Metal shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling. They were packed with grey, anonymous-looking boxes and rows of film canisters. A thick layer of dust covered everything, yet the room felt strangely preserved. The air here was drier, less stale. It was as if this specific chamber had been specially protected. Alex stepped inside, his flashlight beam dancing across the shelves. He pulled down one of the boxes. It was heavy. Section 6. Chronicles of a Phantom Conflict. Alex spent the next few days in the archive room. He set up a small camp just outside its door. He had to know more. He carefully examined the files, his portable translator working overtime. The documents detailed a global war, a war that, according to these records, erupted in the summer of 1993. It was not a nuclear holocaust, not initially. It was described as a rapid escalation of conventional conflicts. The United States, a reformed Soviet Union, China, and European powers were all involved. The level of detail was staggering. There were battle plans, casualty reports, intelligence briefings, names of generals he had never heard of, political leaders in roles they never held, treaties signed and then broken. The photographs showed cities in ruins, but they were not the ruins of World War II. They were contemporary cities, or how they would have looked in 1993. He saw images of soldiers in unfamiliar uniforms, fighting in recognizable streets. The footage was even more disturbing. He managed to power a small hand-cranked projector he found. The film reels showed news reports, anchors with serious faces speaking Russian detailing the day's battles, grainy footage of tanks rolling through European capitals, a panicked evacuation of Washington, D.C. Section 7. The Glitch in Time's Tapestry. Alex emerged from the bunker after nearly a week. He was dazed, disoriented. The bright sunlight of the Estonian forest felt alien. He had his laptop and a generator he'd brought for his main camp. He needed to connect to the internet. He needed to check. He drove to the nearest town with a decent signal. His hands trembled as he typed in dates, events, names from the bunker's archive. He searched for Global War, 1993, Operation Last Dawn, Premier Volodin's address. The search results were blank. Or rather, they showed the history he knew. 1993 was the year of the First World Trade Center bombing, the Waco siege, the Maastricht Treaty. A relatively peaceful year on the grand global scale compared to what he had just witnessed in those files. There was no mention of Berlin falling again, no Tokyo incident, no mass evacuations of major cities. The world outside the bunker was proceeding as it always had. The war was only real within those concrete walls. The realization hit him with physical force. He felt sick. The files, the films, the photographs, they were incredibly authentic. The paper felt old. The ink was faded appropriately. Section 8. Shadows of Another. Now. Alex couldn't shake the feeling of unreality. He drove back to his secluded campsite near the bunker, his mind racing. He needed to talk to someone, but who would believe him? He imagined their faces. He would sound like a madman. He considered the possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Could this be a highly sophisticated piece of Soviet disinformation? A what-if scenario so detailed it could be used to destabilize future enemies, to plant seeds of doubt about their own history? But it was never deployed. It was just left to rot. Perhaps it was a warning, a message from the past, or from somewhere else entirely. A depiction of a path humanity almost took, or could still take. The technology in the war files was slightly different, some advancements appearing earlier, others not at all. It was a subtle divergence, but it was there. He remembered the old man in Tallinn. His knowing eyes. Did he know what the bunker contained? Was he a guardian of this impossible knowledge, passing the burden to someone new? The thought was unsettling. Section 9. The Unanswered Echo. Alex knew he couldn't leave the files there, but he couldn't take all of them either. It was too much. He selected a few key binders, a handful of film canisters, representative samples of the impossible. He documented everything else with his camera, taking thousands of photographs. He then resealed the archive room, making it look as undisturbed as possible. He closed the heavy steel door of the bunker itself. He tried to cover the entrance again with earth and debris, restoring its anonymity, but he knew it would never be truly hidden from him again. He returned to his ordinary life, or what passed for ordinary now. The world seemed different, thinner. He looked at headlines, at politicians, at the familiar flow of history, and saw a ghost of another possibility lurking behind it all. He had proof of a war that never was, but what could he do with it?